Ireland's Classic Hits Radio, it's Trina Murray here. I didn't think I was going to be talking to Gerry Creighton twice in the 1 week, but here we are. Gerry Creighton, of course, who worked in Dublin Zoo for over 37 years and looked after the elephants there for 3 decades. Gerry, we've got another update. So when we spoke earlier on in the week, we were talking all about the really, really sad death of poor Avani and Zinda, who passed away from this virus. Just remind anyone who isn't familiar with the virus what it is and how it affected them.
Yeah, it's a horrible virus. It affects elephants both in the wild and in the zoos and in safaris. Every elephant all across the world carry this virus. It can remain dormant for many, many years, and then they shed the virus through the trunk and the mucus in the trunk, and they shed it, and then animals that are young, tend to be young or immunocompromised, can pick up the virus. Now, it's a very aggressive, it's the herpes family, would you believe? It's a herpes virus, and what happens then when it gets to a hemorrhagic stage, then you see the blood vessels erupt and all fluid and proteins and antibodies and all go into the heart and the lungs and they kill the elephant. So it's fatal when it gets to that point. They are working hard. Euston Zoo and Chester Zoo are working very hard on a vaccine. They're trialling a vaccine at the moment because it's very, very difficult to treat it. You know, when it's in its advanced stage, because the viral load expands so quick. You could have for example, say 500 viral load in a PCR test per mil of blood, and then that evening it could be 5 million. So it's a very aggressive. You know, you can try it with plasma and bloods, and as like the efforts that the Dublin Zoo team put in was remarkable. They tried everything, and they had a whole host of international experts at hand there to try help and advise. But over 80% of the animals that would get it to that stage die. And generally it was thought that it was for calves up to 1 to 5. But now it's older elephants too. And Asha, who's the first elephant that was born at Dublin Zoo, she's tested positive, but she's 17, and the guys were saying that she's doing good, like she's holding her own. So hopefully, because she's that bit older, her immune system is more developed and it's able to combat it.
Yeah,
a bit more optimistic for her future. But I mean, right. Zinda and Avani were amazing 2 elephants. Like I was there for both of their birth, and Avani was an elephant that we actually had to supplementary feed. She needed additional milk, and they were 2 amazing characters, and they had such a bright future for the Endangered Species Programme of Asian elephants, and to be so cruelly taken away. And it has a huge impact, of course, on the team and the staff and the elephants themselves.
The herd, because they really grieve, don't they? They feel it.
Oh, that's it. Correct. Like elephants, they celebrate life, they mourn death. Probably, I've seen 9 births in the herd in the zoo, over a decade, and it was just remarkable. It's all about the family and teaching the next generation and how they push the young females forward when a birth happens, so they get exposed to the sights and the smells and the sounds unique to that moment. Elephants are, that's why I'm so attracted to them and love working with them, because of their empathy, their emotional intelligence. Everything is about the herd, and that unbreakable bond, like with Avani and Zinda gone now, 2 females from the herd, is very significant, because elephant society, the core of elephant society, is a mother-daughter. That's the unbreakable bond, and the females are very strong and stay together. The males are biologically programmed to leave.
The males head off, but Asha was Zinda's mother, and she kind of adopted Avani as well.
That's right, you see, because Avani belonged to Bernardina, who's the matriarch, but Bernardina at the time had a calf, and she was feeding when she gave birth again, which was unusual. She had Samaya. And basically what happened was then she said, I have a baby, I'm not going to feed you. And a very normal thing called alloparenting happens within elephants society too. And Asha decided, well, I'm going to feed you. And so Asha was technically feeding her sister. She's our older sister to Avani. But it was interesting. She would only ever allow her to feed when Zinda would feed. And if Avani tried to feed on her own, she would push her away. But the problem is the composition of the milk, that the requirements were different. Like with Zinda being, she was at 7 or 8 months old when Avani was starting to suckle. But at the start, the milk is higher protein, higher fat content. And little Avani wasn't putting on weight, so she got to a point where she was getting quite weak, and we had to intervene. But she battled back, and we put a huge amount of work. We were going in every couple of hours through the night to get her right and get her strong and get her fit. And she battled through it and came on really well. And she was an amazing little personality. So it's very unsettling, very disturbing for the team. And I wish them well. I've been talking to many of my colleagues, and they're just devastated. And, after such monumental efforts that the zoo put in,
they're my favourite. I just adore the elephants, and even from watching, on the telly nature shows over the years, and the way they help each other. If one elephant falls in a ditch or something, they don't just head on; they'll go back and help the other one get up, and they're incredible to watch. So, how many are in the herd? So, Asha has tested positive for this virus, but we're really hoping that she'll be okay. How many is there?
She's okay. They've had some experts in that they're taking. So there's 3 elephants. There's Bernardina, there's Asha, and then there's Samaya. And then there's a new bull elephant that came in a few weeks ago, Ongbo from Chester Zoo. So there will be hopefully 4. There is still the potential to breed elephants, but it's a very significant loss because the herd had split. And because the herd was so successful last year, which was Bernardina's sister Yasmin and Yasmin's daughter Anik, and their 2 sons went to the Cincinnati Zoo, and that was a huge thing because Dublin Zoo now is the success of the program is resonating throughout the world, and these elephants were going off now to start a breeding family in the USA, and hopefully for many years to come they'll have a huge impact to the population there. So it's been a tremendous success for 2 decades, and it's just a real body blow, and it's a devastating impact for everybody.
And Gerry, would it help in any way? I don't know whether they've done this to separate the elephants, or do they need to kind of stay together? To I'm thinking about COVID when we all kind of kept away from each other, or is it just they just get it either way?
Elephant society, they're so intertwined, and this is a multi-generational family that invest in one another, that care about one another. They would be regularly trained and separated for veterinary procedures or foot care, but they always want to be back together. You couldn't separate them for any length of time.
They'd die of a broken heart, probably, would they?
Yeah, it would cause more stress than it would. Elephants need to be with elephants, and as I say, even when the times where we would take them out of the herd for foot care or for a body wash, they can't wait to get back together, and they'd celebrate and rejoice and start trumpeting when they're back together. So, particularly when they're related elephants, because that's what elephants are all about. That's why Dublin Zoo was so successful, because it was a multi-generational family of elephants that were biologically invested in one another, and that's what the huge success was.
Yeah. Somebody was saying to me that Zinda and Avani, they left the elephants there within the enclosure to give the other elephants a chance to come over, and they touched them with their trunk and that. Is that, it's almost like a wake for elephants?
Oh yeah, that's a gift. You see, there has to be an acceptance, and that's been done with many species, but even great apes, and there's closure. Then they come over and they would see and realise that the animal is dead and it's a herd member, and it's an acceptance, and then they have to get on. They have a grieving process, many species, and then. Look, then that they kind of survive, or the survival will takes over. But it's very important that you can't just, if they just disappeared out of the herd or the troop or the group, it would cause more stress. So you're better off letting them see it. We've done it before with great apes, and where they would come in and realise that an older troop member had died, and it's an acceptance. Then they handle it better because they understand that the herd member or the troop member or whoever has passed away.
Heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking. And then for the team then having to remove the elephants, the body of the elephants afterwards, I assume they get cremated somewhere, do they?
Yeah, no, it's very important. You see, all this information then is harvested for future, for other zoos to use. Like, this is zoos work together to cooperate very well. Basically what would happen is, the treatments, the drugs, the times, the feed, they look at the body, the condition, everything would be tested, all the organs, to try harvest as much information. And then this goes into a system called ZIMS, which is Zoo Information Management System. And it's like a database that all zoos can check into then if they need help or advice, and to kind of see, how the cases were. So it's it's very important that we learn from it. And that's what happens to all zoo animals. They would go for PM, to understand how they look, the nutrition, their body mass, their muscle tone, everything like that. So there's a lot of information to be learned.
Yeah, and I did see a couple of comments online, people saying, what do you expect having them in the zoo? This virus happens in the wild as well, Gerry, you were telling us the other day.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a virus that goes, it's uncompromising. It's in elephants, it lays dormant. It's been detected in every situation, from wild to African to Asian elephants to the Thailand to the street elephants to zoos, so it's there. So that's why there's so much effort and resources being put in to try to find a vaccine, because a vaccine seems to be the only way forward. But like a lot of viruses, and herpes viruses are particularly difficult, and then they can break off into different strains. Like for the elephant herpes virus, there's 5 or 6 different strains, some more lethal than the other. So, this is what happens. So viruses can be particularly difficult, to develop vaccines for.
Okay, well, Gerry, thanks so much for coming on to give us an
No
update
problem.
on Asha, and we really, really hope the fact that she's a little bit older, her immune system might help her get through this horrific
Hopefully.
virus.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
That took the lives of Zinda and Avani, who were much younger. They were 7 and 8, and Asha's 17, isn't she?
Yeah, that's it. She's 17. She was the first elephant. People would remember she was the first elephant born in the Republic of Ireland. I was there when she dropped to the sand floor, and it was so excitement. All our years of hard work in the new habitat, and she was the one that offered hope for the future. And she was brilliant. It was amazing to see her grow and develop into a beautiful female and have her own offspring. So fingers crossed she makes it.
Okay. Thanks so much, Gerry. I know you're working away
Take
there
care.
in the UAE at the moment with elephants as well. So we'll let you get back to
I'm
it.
all over the place.
Thanks so much.
Bye
Bye-bye.
bye.
It's Ireland's
Bye-bye.
Classic Hits Radio.